Today we're going to be talking about some features and benefits of the Solera 12-volt power awning. Now, this guy is motorized awning, so you can fully extend or fully retract with the push of a button. You gotta press and hold that extend switch or retract switch to get that awning to go to either the fully extended or retracted position. Every Solera awning has a pitch arm built into it.
Next, we're going to choose the side that we want to establish pitch. Pitch can be set by adjusting our pitch arm on our awning assembly to tip our awning for optimal water runoff. If the pitch of the awning is not set and a significant amount of water, snow, or debris accumulates on top of the awning fabric, the awning may pitch itself to purge the excess water. The awning can pitch itself and dump a significant amount of water or snow, and it can do this without notice. In the event water has pooled on top of your awning fabric, you will need to remove the excess water prior to manually adjusting the pitch of your awning. Before manually adjusting the pitch of your awning, you'll want to make sure that you remove any excess water, snow, or debris on top of your awning fabric. You can do this by using a long-handled tool like a broom to push up on the fabric of your awning and remove any pooling water or debris. Now that we've removed the excess water, snow, or debris from on top of our awning fabric, we can manually and safely set the pitch of our awning. And we're going to do this on the side furthest away from our entry door. The pitch arm is designed to hold the set position by the operator. An operator can also reset the pitch of the awning by manually pushing up on the Solera pitch arm. But if you are doing this, do not overextend it past the straight line because this can add excess tension to the gas strut and cause that strut to break. The pitch arm will also be reset when you are retracting your awning.
The power awnings on the head assembly up here all have this rubber cap. It's kind of hard to see on this black head assembly, but they all have this rubber cap. Underneath this rubber cap is the motor. That motor override nut is a 7/16 override nut, and then you can actually either run the drill in clockwise or counterclockwise to either retract or extend that awning as needed. Once the awning is fully retracted, you want to go ahead and reset that rubber cap in place so we don't get dirt or debris inside of there. And that's how you could manually override that awning in the event of power loss. Lastly, we'll talk about some fabric maintenance. So fabric maintenance is pretty easy. You want to get a 5-gallon bucket of water, 1/4 cup of soap. Go ahead and apply that to both the underside and top side of the fabric as needed. And then go ahead and actually roll that awning back up, fully retract that awning. Let that sit for 5 minutes. That mixture will kind of help clean it for you. Then you want to run that awning all the way back out and hose that fabric off. Another thing that the awning is able to do is actually roll up backwards. So if you hold on to your extend switch for too long, it'll get to the fully extended position, and then it'll actually start to roll up backwards and go back to the fully retracted position. You can use that to help you clean the fabric as well. In the event that you do that, you would want to hold the retract button to get it to go back out to the fully extended position. So best bet to avoid any confusion, hit the extend button until it's fully extended, and then once it's at the fully extended position, let go of that extend button, and once you're ready to go, press and hold the retract button. That way it's always operating under normal conditions. Next, sticking with fabric, we want to make sure that that fabric, while operating, is not bunching up to one side or the other. That can cause the arms to not close properly or operate properly. So in our roll tube, there's screws that are holding the poly cords for the fabric on both ends. They're holding that fabric squarely on the roll tube, and then we have 2 screws on either side of our awning rail that are holding that fabric secure as well. If those screws are missing, that fabric can shift and start to bunch up on one side or the other, or actually cause maybe one arm to kind of pull away from the coach, even though the awning is fully retracted. So if you see something like that happening, it's a good indicator that maybe one of your screws is missing. Next, another thing that can cause some operational concerns, if the screws that hold the end cap here to your roll tube are missing or loose, if the screw that holds the end cap, holds the head assembly to your outer arm, if that's loose, or if any of the screws mounting the mount arm to the coach, if those are loose or missing, that can cause that arm to wobble and not allow that awning to either retract or extend properly all the way. So verify those are tight. Another thing that can cause the arm to kind of wobble, where the pitch arm, the strut, where all these things get pinned together, there's spacers there. But those spacers need to be there, otherwise that can cause the pitch arm, let's say, to walk to the left or walk to the right inside of this outer arm. And if it does that, that's going to get that chance for that wobble. So if this has been serviced, let's say someone goes in and replaces this pitch arm because it got damaged, we need to make sure that those spacers get reinserted to prevent that wobble. Now, up in our drive side here, we've got that motor. That motor has a 6 amp auto reset fuse built into it. It's going to trip out between 6 and 9 amps. Now, that motor is being fed power out of this coach with a 14 gauge minimum wire, all right? So, supplying power through that 14 gauge minimum wire up to that motor, that voltage should not get less than 11.5 volts. That's the minimum operating voltage for the Solera awning. So minimum operating voltage is 11.5. So if the voltage starts to drop below that, that can trip that fuse that's built into that motor. Another thing you want to look out for is supplying power to that switch. Between that switch and that battery, there's a 15 amp, that's RVIA code, there's a 15 amp fuse. So let's say you're not getting this awning to run out or in at all. If that 15 amp fuse is blown, obviously that'll prevent operation. So verify that that guy's intact, and then verify when you hit the extend or retract portion of that switch that you're getting signal through that switch up to that motor. Now, checking for voltage and checking for amp draws. Checking for voltage, we're going to want to do that at the motor. Verify we got that 11.5 at the motor. And then amp draw, we're going to want to do that on retract. So we're looking for that 6 to 9 or less than that 6 amps on retract, because we have this strut back here. We want to do it on retract because that motor's going to have to work harder. All right? We don't use a spring in our roll tube to assist that motor on the retract side. So that motor is having to compress this strut on its own. So that's why we're going to have you check amp draws on retract. That'll let us know where those amp draws are sitting. And then lastly, the other thing we just want to verify is that your wires are routed properly, nothing's getting pinched inside of the arm assembly itself, and just make sure there's no debris or anything in the arms that could prevent the awning from operating correctly. Now, manual override, let's say you do have that loss of power and the customer just needs to get mobile. On the end of the power awnings, actually on the end of all of our head assemblies, there's this black rubber cap. That'll give you access. You need a 7/16 socket. That'll give you access to the manual override that's built onto the motor, and then you'll be able to retract this awning or extend it. Let's say you need to do service. But that'll at least give the customer the ability to retract it to that fully retracted position and get mobile so they can get in for service